So we will call to order the Policy and Budget Committee. Standard review of disposition.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, under other business, I'm going to talk a little bit about next year's budget. Also, we have a letter from a constituent who, regarding a tour, student tours to Europe, that I will pass out to you. It falls under policy in terms of district liability and things like that, so I'll pass that out to you. He asked if I would give it to you this month, and he requests that he come in and talk about it next month, and I said, that's fine, you're a constituent, you can talk to anybody you want, so.
Okay, approval of the minutes of August 21st. Any objection to the ones that were set forth? Was given. If not, they will be accepted as printed. Yes, we did. Okay. Fiscal year 18 wrap-up. Approval of the Town of Education MS-25.
Yes, many of you signed off. The chairman walked through all the numbers with me at the end of the fiscal year, and we finished the year in a strong position, not only taking care of the retained fund balance, but also we had projected about a $223,000 unreserved fund balance. It ended up at $325,000. There's a good and a bad to that. The good is that we help to offset next year's tax rate. The bad is we start from that hole next year in terms of revenue. But we will, when we set the budget when I present a budget to you in November, we'll have some sort of idea what the end of the year will look like, if we can get special ed to settle down a little bit. But that's really the only area where we're fluctuating at the moment. But as you go through, you can see how we did with revenues, that we're in a strong position on food service. We have a fund balance of $22,000, and also you can see some capital reserve accounts that just have a little bit of money in them, just over $1,500 in both of them. So they've been used to offset some major expenses. So I thought we had a very, very solid year, and I appreciate the guidance the board and particularly Policy and Budget Committee gave to the principal and myself.
That's on pages that follow. Okay.
And there are, I know that's part of your package, but there are separate reports if anybody wants them for their records. So it's not part of the agenda package. You can have a separate report if you so choose.
So are there any questions with respect to this report? Any of the numbers in it? Mark, with respect to the capital reserve fund,
Yep.
does it make any sense for us to maintain these $1,600, $1,700 funds and earn $22 a year and go through all the machinations of putting information? I mean, that is
Well,
not...
financially, probably not. But if the board wants to close those accounts out, we would do that at the district meeting. It'd be something for folks to vote on. And we certainly have expenses in both categories that those funds can offset.
Anything else in the fiscal year ending 6/30/18 school board report that anyone wants to discuss?
Did I ask facilities?
Could you, Mr. Chairman, could you move to approve those forms? They've
Yep.
gone down already, but the auditors will be looking for an approval.
I have a motion to recommend to the full board that we approve these forms.
So moved.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The next thing I have is policy on drug use, alcohol, tobacco products on school grounds. I think the only one we're dealing with is number 3, right?
No, the whole thing, it's part of our, the first review the committee looked at on June 19th of 2018.
Oh, okay, we added the service.
Yeah, it's for guests who come onto the campus so that they understand the rules, and also we had cleaned up some of the e-cigarettes and vaping language, or added to it, so.
They're consistent. Same with the full section, is that what we're using now?
Does this mirror what the statute says, the 126K9, is it?
I was thinking about the one above.
Oh, the alcohol beverages and controlled substances?
Yeah.
It's a blanket statement, are not permitted in school buildings or on school grounds.
I don't think it's inconsistent. It might not be the exact language that we use, but it's not inconsistent with
Okay.
the language that we use.
All right.
Who's supposed to police whether if someone brings a dog on the football game or something?
We have police here on campus
Okay.
that we hire to oversee the event.
Any other questions on second reading of this policy? This is, of course, a modification of the one we adopted in 2014. Get a motion, send this on to the full board. Second by Mr. McCormick. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I guess we are on to then number 5.
Yes, we were, as we look to build next year's budget, I just want to tell you that the beautiful building and all the improvements, it's time to pay the bill. So we will be going out for a bond for about $3.2 million. That's the local share of the project. Remember, this is an $8 million job, and the state has been sending their money as we go along. So we will only be borrowing our share. And right now, the bond market is at about 2.5%. And we're looking at going out over 10 years. And so the first payment in the fiscal year with interest will be about $405,000. Now that's not the bottom line number because it'll net out the interest payments that we had in this year's budget. So it'll be under $400,000, but that will be in the budget on top of everything else. Just wanted to let you know, so when I come in and you see a whopper of a number to begin the process, that we begin doing the building this year.
Mark, based on,
Just a little heads up, 2 months ahead of time.
based on this year,
Yeah.
can you project somewhere in the ballpark what percent increase that would have on?
Yeah, we have it by town.
Okay.
When we did the bond hearing, we had a big chart by town, how much everything cost. So it had a per thousand impact by each of the towns. So we'll refresh that number for the budget process. Also, Mr. Chairman, next month Dan Rossner will be in to discuss, there's a change in legislation with regard to default budgets. It could be quite complicated. So I want him to come in October. So when we have those conversations, you'll understand. I think not only is there a change in how you present a default budget, but I also think there is new language with regard to presenting a default budget. So we historically, we've always said, here's the default budget, and had copies available, but we haven't spent a lot of time on the default budget, other than the chairman announcing the difference between the regular budget and the default budget. And so I think this will be a little bit different this time around, but we'll have Dan in to explain it. We got some guidance today from the Municipal Association. And so I haven't had a chance to read it. I saw it come in, but Dan will be in next month to talk about that.
Are we getting any input from the school board association?
We haven't yet, but I'm sure they'll be right around the corner. And let me, if I can, Mr. Chairman, let me hand out the letter that I spoke to. John Freeman, who's a Plymouth resident, wanted me to present to you information on trips that I wouldn't say he's sponsoring it, he's part of a trip sponsored by an organization. We have some information there about the trip. All that I want to do tonight is make sure you have that information, and then John will be in at probably your first meeting in October under privilege of the floor. Might be the best time to bring him in. Those tend to be lighter agenda evenings, the first meeting of the month, and we will have that first meeting in October. So I will, if it's all right with the board, I will contact John and say you can come in and present to the board your information.
Am I having hallucinations, or wasn't John involved in a similar thing to this many years ago?
He could have been, yeah. John was a former principal at Campton Elementary School, and then has been a principal throughout New Hampshire. He was at Laconia for a period of time. I think he's been involved in some of those international travel things, but I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know his role or his involvement.
Anything else on that matter? This year's budget. Any matter want to be brought up by any committee members? Now we have future meetings scheduled for the 16th of October, the 19th of November, and the 18th of December.
The 19th of November is when Bruce and I will be presenting your budget to you.
19th of November?
Yeah.
We will likely have, depending on the budget, we will likely have more meetings than these before our submission date, which is early January. But we'll see what happens after we get the budget and what we have to do to decide. If there's nothing further, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Call the meeting is 2:40. Agenda review and disposition.
I'm all set, Madam Chair.
All right. Approval of the minutes. Unless there are no corrections, they'll stand approved. August 20th.
First one, just tell me the program.
Updates on program locations.
A little bit of timetable. I think we'll be.
You have an update for us on the program?
I do, Madam Chair. I wanted Bruce to update you on where programs are physically in the school right now, and you got some of that information at our last meeting, but as a reminder, and sort of a brief timetable as to when some of these programs will be transitioning into the new facility. As you know, we had planned on phasing in as floors became available to us. So the first, we were going to come in third floor, second floor, first floor. The most complicated area to do outside of the kitchen is also the auto area. And that was the last area that got its new floor because that was a staging area for the rest of the building. So I just wanted Mr. Parsons to update you on where programs are now, and don't hold us to kind of a rough timetable working with the contractors in terms of when those programs will transition from the traditional building into the new facility.
Thanks, Mr. Halloran. As you saw when you came down through here, drafting and the multimedia communication piece is up and running. We'll do a punch list throughout, but we're in there with full speed. We have full classes in there, and it's coming along just fine. Missing bits and pieces of furniture in the multimedia that'll be coming, and some lighting that will be done in those two areas, but those are up and running with no problem. We like the open concept too, that you see here when you come in. Kids seem to like it too, so we're going to keep that open. no furniture on that piece, and it really runs smooth. Today, I had the good fortune of meeting with the blinds people and measuring the third floor. We've got about 90 pieces of furniture. We call cabinet the millwork. That's ready, it's in, and we're waiting for a couple more of the rooms the floors to be completed. And then that millwork will go in for our special ed area and the health occupation. We anticipate, and again, as Mark said, we're not going to hold them to it, but it looks like at the end of September, I'll be able to be moving furniture up there and maybe looking at that October 7th of moving the special ed programs in there and health hoc in there. And again, that's a tentative date. It depends on that millwork and that piece, but it does look good. It does look good. We want to move them all in together. We can't be doing that in pieces. We want to make sure that the workers are off that floor as we move in. When you move downstairs to marketing and culinary, we're a little bit, it's going to take a little longer. Again, I'm not a gambler. I would not hate to anticipate what we're looking at. I anticipate somewhere around Thanksgiving or maybe when we get back. There's a lot of equipment down there that still needs to be installed, but both areas look absolutely gorgeous. Downstairs, you can see, if you've looked in the back, the walls are complete. Masonry have completed the walls, 2 autos, so they'll be able to come in. No equipment has been able to be brought in there until we complete that masonry project. Because they actually put a wall coming right down the middle, and then another wall that'll separate that classroom. But schedule-wise, it looks great. Our kids have been just outstanding as we go through. They have been more than accommodating. And again, we anticipate it'll be a big deal getting in there that first week of October. John has a schedule planned out for the actual move. And we anticipate that furniture and the millwork to come in on time. And I'd be more than happy to take you through when we go out there tonight to drafting in the multimedia. You can see that piece. Maureen?
Bruce, do you have a sense for about when you're talking about autos in that area?
No, I don't, Maureen. And I wouldn't even want to, I wouldn't want to throw a date out to you.
Okay.
But we've, they're in a classroom now. We brought the motors up. The kids are doing some hands-on. We purchased some tools we're bringing in that the kids can get used to on that piece. There's still some work to be done down in that area.
One of the holdups has been a fire retardant surface, Maureen, that we
Yes.
spray on all the, above and on the side of the area. And then the humidity hasn't helped us in that process. But we're working hard on it, and we're starting to get.
Super, thanks. Anybody have questions for Bruce about the updates? Okay. Nominations of support staff, that's for non-public, I guess?
Yes, I have one support staff special ed aide to nominate, and then one JV soccer coach to nominate. Those are the only nominations for tonight. And I will discuss their qualifications with you in non-public session. We'll come back out into public session, and I'll make the nominations.
All right. Any other business?
I have none, Madam Chair.
So that takes us to non-public session now. Do I hear a motion to go into non-public? Are we doing that now?
No, I would do that. It's just the two of them, and they're sort of, they're not hard to do. So I just assume we wait later in the meeting.
All right, so then we have future meetings on October 16th, November 19th, and December 18th. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. And Walter, all in favor? Thank you.
So I call this committee meeting to order. It's 5:21. And we have the minutes of the last meeting. Anybody like to make a motion to approve? Walter? Second? Ross, thank you. Okay. The minutes have been approved as written. Next, the CTE project update.
I just gave you that, Madam
Same
Chair.
thing.
Yeah, at one point I didn't point out, if you take a look when you come in, we did the new signs for the high school are up. If you saw them, we raised it, Plymouth Regional High School, and out to the side, you'll see the career tech
One color and the other color.
on the signs.
Plymouth Regional High School is one color, look to me, in my eyes.
I think it's you're right, because we only painted the one part of that building, Mr. Deachman.
I'm looking at the...
Right.
The lettering?
The lettering.
I think it's the same color.
Yeah,
But I'll
exactly.
double check, but it's supposed to be the same color.
Well, I did go to the eye doctor this morning.
I think it's because we just painted that piece, Mark, and we didn't paint the, to the right, to the left.
If I'm right, you're gonna issue an apology, okay?
I said I would double check. Far be it from me. There's supposed to be, all the lettering's supposed to be charcoal. And as Mr. Parsons pointed out, the sign has been moved. I think it's in a really nice location.
Yeah, we brought it up.
And then we'll do some signage on the back also. So when you look, if you're at an event in the back, you look up and it's just not a big building. But the painters have done a nice job moving along, and if you see that there are patches, it's for us to make sure that it's coming in the way we want it to come in. And so there are different angles to the building that have already been painted so that we can see certain colors at twilight and sunrise and all the other things. So we don't do this very often, so we'd like to do it right. So that's gone very, very well.
We're working our way around to the front, we're pretty much there.
Parking, so far, it's been great. Kids have been terrific, and the faculty has been very cooperative into the areas that we've assigned them. The issue that we may want to talk about when the project is over and for the spring and summer will be that parking area in front of the west wing that we created. Whether you want us to continue to let that be a parking area or whether you want to replace the lawn that was there. Not for tonight, not for next week, but something for you to think about, because many people like parking there. I like the greenness of it. In spite of my reputation of being from East Boston and paving everything, that's a nice part of the campus over there. So that will be something for you to think about. It's about, and athletics, everything has been fine with location, and everything has worked out.
In fact, they've given us more room now. You can come in through the sheds over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did that today, watching the soccer
I think
game
that
there.
we've handled every request from people who need assistance. I think we've handled every request. I think everyone's very, very happy at not only soccer games, football games, and field hockey games.
Full house there today.
Yeah,
So, what is, over here at the end?
Yeah.
Will there be parking there
No,
Saturday?
no parking,
No.
no. But,
Still.
yeah, you can walk in through there and
Oh.
come across to the right of the basketball court.
but all the tailgating is going on up on the upper lots, so you won't miss a good time, Dr. McCormick, but you will. But they've just moved from the back lot up to the top lot. I told them, you can come back next season, it'll be all opened up for you.
Okay,
And that's the report on the facility, Madam Chair.
thank you. Updates to the athletic field use,
Yes,
parking, building painting.
I just wanted to give a heads up to the Facilities Committee at your October meeting. The Track Committee is going to come in and make their report. They've done, as you know, there was a group that presented in front of you probably a couple of years ago and said they were looking at the feasibility of developing a track here on the campus. And they got a grant and did some matching funds, so they did some survey work, answered some questions we've had for quite some time about the facility. And so they're going to come in October. So just as you're sort of scheduling your time, we're going to spend a little more time in facilities than usual to allow the group to present to you.
Is that it? Thank you. Other business, any other business for facilities? Yes, Phil?
Not related to this facility, but Bob, do you know what's happened? I was told there's a rock and a plaque that was put down at the old high school.
Yes,
Who did that?
that was a good question, yeah. Yeah, I think, Mr. Deitch, were you there with us that day?
Yep.
Bill Driscoll. You want to talk about it?
Oh, Bill headed up a group on behalf of the class of 1960 to put a stone in commemoration of the location of the prior high school. And it was done very well, and he had cooperation from the Holderness Fire Department, a couple of other sources, and they had the plaque made and put the rock, and it's on High Street. It would be on the High Street side of that location. Very nice.
And it's still there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's very well done. Have you seen it?
It's right on the site where the old high school was.
Well, it's on the sidewalk side,
Yeah.
maybe 5 or 8 feet in off the sidewalk.
Did they have to get permission from Plymouth State?
Oh, yes. it was very
They set the whole
closely-
thing up.
Yeah.
No, there was a picture. and-
Vice President was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was down there for the ceremony. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
They gave a donation to the school.
The second plaque by the class of 1960, because they had one in the common for Nathaniel Hawthorne, along with 59, 60, 61, I think it is.
You want?
Any other business? That it? The next meetings are scheduled for October 16th, November 19th, and December 18th. And as you heard, the October meeting should be a little bit longer, allow time for the presentation from the track committee. I'll entertain a motion to conclude the committee meeting. Thank you, Walter. Second? Bernie? Okay. And we'll end at 5:29.
I'd like to call the board to order. Agenda review and disposition.
I'm all set, Madam Chair.
And approval of the minutes unless there are any amendments or corrections to the August 21st minutes. They stand approved as written. And did we want to give,
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a request, a student request, to meet with the board in non-public session. So I would ask that the board approve that and enter into non-public session for a student request.
do I hear a motion? Tim, seconded by Maureen? Yes?
Yes.
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 So can we vote on the two nominations?
Sure, if you'd like to.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
So no action was taken during the non-public session, but we do have two recommendations from the superintendent. One is to approve the nomination of Susan Daigneault as a special ed aide at the D3 level. And the other is to approve the nomination of Harvis Perez as a JV soccer coach. It was recommended by the,
I nominate. Yeah. Both.
yeah. So all those in favor of those two nominations? And it looks like as it is unanimous.
Thank
So
you.
we guess we can go right into, will we have a student?
Trying.
I mean, not,
They're the students that they're involved in theater right now. They're auditioning for a music.
but we will have a
We do
student
have a
rep at
student
some
rep,
point.
yeah. He's very busy.
Okay. Yes. Well, just let them know that we are looking forward
No,
to,
she does the, AJ Capola does the musical.
Who is the student representative?
Ben Parsons. Mark, Ben.
He graduated this year, this is last year.
He'll be a senior this year.
let them know we're looking forward to
I'll
having
let
him
them know you're
back.
looking for him. Put an APB out on him.
And Mr. Halloran.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to share with you opening day numbers from not only the high school, but also throughout the SAU. SAU-wide, we have 1,923 students, and that is up 11 students from this time last year. We had 1,912 students, so we're holding our own, unlike other districts in rural areas where enrollment seems to be declining. We're staying stable. We're not growing, but we're staying stable. The high school, as you can see, has 675 students. That's down from last year at 682, but well above the 663 number that we built the budget on. So we ended up a net gain of our projection of 12. But in reality, we're down 7 students from last year. But
Does this include the new class?
no, it doesn't include. Those are our students. It does not include. These are the class sizes. The freshman class has 160 students in it, and at the moment, if you look at this year's 8th grade, including Ashland, their projected, their current enrollment is 156. So it looks at that 160 number is pretty solid for the would be next year, the freshman and the sophomore classes. So in terms of the facility, we're fine. We got a little bit of a curveball on where the kids went in terms of signing up for courses. So as you know, we did bring back the social studies teacher that originally had been riffed. We brought that person back because of enrollments in social studies, and it looks as though that was certainly the right thing to do given the enrollments that we have. So we'll be checking all of those enrollments and then projecting forward as we make out the budget for next year. Let me give you a town by town, just a net figure. Campton this year is up 4. Holderness is down 15. They went from 162 to 147. Plymouth is up 7. Rumney's up 8. Thornton's up 13. Wentworth stayed exactly at 59 students for both years, and Waterville Valley is down 1. They went from 22 to 21. Ashland has, as I said, they have 9 students in their current 8th grade, so it's a small 8th grade class in Ashland. So if you add 9 to the 8th graders, you should come up with 156. So all in all, the targets were hit, and there's no excess of anything in terms of personnel. And then those numbers become real on October 1st, we reported. Those are the opening day enrollments. The October 1 number is the number that's used for grants and enrollment for the year and everything else. I also will be handing out a memo from Dan Rosner, who put together the new requirements of the right to know. And this is going out to school board secretaries and school board chairs with regard to meeting minutes and how minutes should be taken. So in all of our districts, it's a little bit different. And it'll remain whatever those folks want to do. But this is at least a guideline for folks to say, you need to comply with the statute with return to minutes. So, Bobby. And I think Dan was helped out by the Municipal Association. So. And that's my report, Madam Chair. Any questions on enrollment? With very smooth openings in all of our schools.
Thank you. Mr. Parsons.
I'll just piggyback from Superintendent. We had a great opening. Interesting, starting the late time, but the kids were great. We had a wonderful presentation from Ty Gagne, who came in on September 11th, Tuesday, and addressed 9 and 10 in the lecture hall, and then 11 and 12. We had 2 different assemblies. On the book that he had written, Where You'll Find Me, the young lady who lost her life in the presidential range. Ty was able to bring a real clear message on making risky decisions. whether the kids would drive. And, he was able to tie the message that came out of that book into a lot of the things the kids go through today, drinking, juuling, that piece. You could hear a pin drop. He also did a tremendous job of bringing together our 3 students who gave their lives during the conflict. He had pictures up there of Doug, of Jared, and of Mark. Keep in mind, a lot of those kids had no clue. Received some great feedback, not only from parents from outside, but the students as well. Our class sizes are pretty big. I'm not panicking yet. Mr. Price has done a great job of maintaining and building that master schedule. We keep in mind we do have a teacher that's out on a sabbatical. Those math numbers were a little bit high. Kids they're done making their changes. And again, we're making accommodations with the rooms. I have 2 teachers that do travel throughout the day. That'll be put to end when we get into that 3rd floor. But the kids have been super. The accommodations down here, as you can see, you just get a different feel. The kids get a different feel, and they're just more relaxed. Cafe services have been just extremely accommodating, and it's been nice. So we're off to a great season 2. All our sports are, we have great numbers there, and can't imagine, we've already, some of these sports have already done 8 to 10 games, so it's been it's been a good open, a very good open, on wood.
I'd just like to add that Mark forwarded me a letter that a parent had written that was extremely complimentary on Bruce and the assembly with Ty. It was a very, very nice letter that a parent took the time to write.
I happened to bump into Ty at the post office this morning. He was very complimentary of the school and the reception he got and his interaction with the students and work done by Mark and Bruce.
Good. Well, good job, Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's fun. And I think that's it. I'll be sending my letter out to the parents, getting ready for the mock schedule. It'll come up, and I tell you, having homecoming in the middle of October, that's kind of a relief too, so we don't just jump into that. So I think it's more time for the kids to get geared up. So. Yeah. They're getting ready for it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Committee progress reports. Facilities?
Okay. For facilities this evening, we had an update on the CTE project, and it was basically a repeat of most of it, what we heard from one of the other committee reports, except additionally we addressed the signs outside. Probably maybe some difference. They're going to be looking at those again to make sure they're okay. We also had an update on parking, and probably an issue for the spring would be, do we want to continue parking as we are now under the renovation, or turn the temporary parking area into a lawn area? That will be a spring discussion, not for now. We had updates on the athletic field use, parking and building painting. Painting around the building looks a little bit off because there are different tones in different areas for continued selection to make sure that there's continuity and acceptance in the color that is finally used. Excuse me. Other business, it was brought up that the former high school, where it was located, on the current Plymouth State University campus, there is a rock with a plaque noting that the Plymouth High School was located there. It is still there on High Street. Future meetings for the Facilities Committee are October 16th November 11th, and December 12th. That's it.
Thank you. Policy and budget.
Yes, we met this evening, and we approved minutes, primary. We had a review of the MS 25, and it was voted to forward it to the full board for its approval. At unanimous recommendation of the committee.
So coming from committee is the recommendation
Yes.
to approve MS 25. All those in favor? I don't think anyone was opposed or abstaining, so unanimous.
So we then took up the new policies regarding dogs, use of alcohol and tobacco products, as a result of some work we've done over the summer. We're doing our second reading tonight. Our first reading was in June. It was approved. We're going to see it at the committee meeting, and it comes with the full recommendation of the committee for its adoption.
And that was the second reading?
This is the second
Okay.
reading tonight.
Thank you, second reading. So all those in favor of approving the second reading,
All right?
and that's a unanimous vote also.
Sorry, last what were you talking about for next year's budget?
Yes, just the impact of the beginning to pay the bond off. The highest payment will be next year, close to $400,000 in principal and interest. Just a prep for 2 months from now.
Put on
Require-
notice.
Require any action by the board. And discussed our future meetings on the October 16th, November 19th, and December 18th. There will be some likely additional budget committee meetings following the submission of the proposed budget for 2019-20 at the November meeting. Adjourned.
Thank you. Program and staffing.
Yes, we met tonight and approved the minutes from August 21st. Mr. Parsons gave us an update on program locations right now in the school. Drafting and multimedia, which are down on this lower level, are all set, up and running, with a couple small things that will be brought in shortly. Third floor furniture will go in once the rooms are done, possibly the end of September. And by October 7th, hoping to move special ed and health OC into those areas. On the second floor, marketing and culinary will be a bit later, hopefully around Thanksgiving, but it could be later than that. And there's no timeline quite yet about autos in that area, but the kids are working in another classroom, and that seems to be going fine. We went into, there was no other business, and we went into non-public for support staff knowledge. And that was it.
And SCC, when are they having their first meeting?
We had our first meeting. September 10th, and at that meeting, a vote was taken to bring forward to this board for approval to work this year on discussing late start to the school day. That's the primary issue that was voted on. We'd like your approval to go forward.
You mean starting later?
In the morning? Yes. Not as opposed to starting September, October.
Right.
It's
So starting
Starting
later
at
than
earlier time of the day
7:30.
as opposed to later in the calendar year.
right. And we know there are a lot of issues connected with that, including possibility of the contract with teachers.
Numerous issues.
Yes.
There are
Yes.
contractual issues with the 2 unions. There are issues with the bus company
Right.
and the impact upon families and start times at all the elementary schools. So it is as Mr. Parsons and I met with last year's freshman class, had a very nice discussion with them.
Yes.
and they're aware of all the layers of issues that come with that. Oftentimes, you will see single district school districts, K through 12 school districts, can make that flip. It's pretty easy for them. They employ the buses and they're in charge, so that they work their labor issues out. That's the only issue. But dealing with seven sending communities and all of that, it's a little more complicated in a multi-district SAU like ours.
And a lot of those potential issues were discussed. And we did also hear from the freshman representative that the freshman class did look into this to some degree, and it's an issue that's being discussed among the students. So we're just looking for the approval of the board to continue the discussion and see what happens.
They're looking for a vote though from you.
Yes, we need the approval of the board. That's the way
To
it
have them
works.
research.
Nothing else that you discussed with a possible issue?
Well, as a review, I believe it was last May, at the conclusion of our year, I came forward with a list of about 6 different subjects that we really discussed in depth. And there was quite a bit of passion from all of the students on a number of these issues, and we felt that we were so passionate about so many of them, and they were all valuable, that we would like the direction from the board. Steer us in the direction you'd like us to go, and that's where we will agree to go. I brought that list to the board. I believe there was a handout to each of you with the list of items, and it was not acted on. The board let it go, and the idea was SCC was supposed to be a subject of discussion at the summer retreat. Did not get on the agenda. We did bring that to the attention of the principal that day at the retreat, and he was going to try to put it on the agenda that day, but we really ran out of time. So there's been no action, there's been no discussion, and then when we had our August meeting, again, there was nothing. So the SCC committee is kind of sitting there wondering where they really fall. We brought a suggestion of a list of really dynamic suggestions. Nothing was determined. There was a bit of a comment about it wasn't our direction, our job as a board to choose for the SEC. The SEC was supposed to come back to the board with a choice. So last month when we met, we discussed it again, and we said, of those that we brought to you, this is the one. Overwhelmingly, unanimously, I would say, the number one choice was to discuss the school day. Yes.
Just a question. So all these issues come up with this topic, including, I thought of 2 sports, athletics. As a practical matter, my recollection is the teacher's contract doesn't come up until 21, right?
Yes.
So as a practical matter, that couldn't even be negotiated until the new contract comes in. Do I look at that the right way?
Unless both parties agree.
I mean, I don't have an objection to people spending their time on an issue if they like that, but I just...
They are aware of that. They did discuss it. They felt there'd be so many things to discuss and look at, or it might just be shot down right away. I mean, we discussed the bus issue and the fact that they were K through 8 and then 9 through 12, and how if we changed our day, how that impacts everybody else. But apparently, it's such an issue that the freshman students, first-year students, have really spent some time on this, and they want us to go forward. And lacking direction from the board last year,
Coordinated time.
we've narrowed down to the one. And just to refresh your memory, if I may, the topics we brought forward were starting the school day later, providing an alternative to detentions and suspensions, providing an alternative to sports after school, looking at the schedule. That's rather a lot of different things. I don't know if it means changing the block schedule, but looking at the schedule broadly. Alternative options for snow days. Do we want to try and add minutes to each day like some of the other schools have in the state? Changing that. international travel, and the one we thought, which was overwhelmingly what we were going to settle on, was in-school tutoring. And those were the subjects that were brought to the board. And in essence, we were told, go back to SCC and pick your subject. But we were going to discuss it, and it never did. So we did, as a committee, look at the same issues we brought before the board, and now their whole thrust is this late start to the school day. Yes?
So the question, is this something that's feasible? I mean, if it's not feasible, I would hate for you to spin your wheels and all those kids.
I agree.
Is there a way to give them an answer as to whether this can even happen? You know, given all those moving parts, or is it
Depends how
worth-
long they're gonna research it. They have a lot of work to do to research.
I mean, the conversation would have to be had with all the elementary boards. And then those elementary boards would have to look at their collective bargaining agreements and see if they have start time and end times in those, they're all a little different. I know some do, some don't. Some just have length of day. Others have specific start times. So,
Interesting project for them.
certainly, while it would not take place while these folks were in high school. If they wanted to do their legwork for their younger brothers and sisters, then the information would be there, but it's not going to be something that happens overnight.
And it could also impact the sports issue, which was one of the other suggestions they wanted to look at. So we saw some overlap between discussing this issue and some of the other interested areas we brought up.
Do you think the students would want to know what they just said, that it's really not something that could happen
They
in
know
the next
that.
3 years? Okay, they're aware of that.
How many
They've
people on your
discussed-
committee meeting?
There's supposed to be, what's the total? Do you remember?
22.
21, 22, but we don't have full participation
How
from
many
the
were at the
communities.
meeting that you-
At that meeting,
9.
10, 9,
9.
you're right.
And the vote was 7-2.
Yep.
They discussed that, but they've never had a quorum.
We've never had it. Because we've never had all the positions filled. This is where this should have been discussed at the retreat, because the question from SCC is, what is our value? Do we continue? We bring suggestions, you don't get an answer. We discuss those down further, we narrow it down. They know that this subject they're bringing forward requires a lot of discussion, and a lot of things we talk about right now, they already say, how is that even possible? But let's look at it. The buses, the after-school sports. They know there are a lot of things they have to look at. From my personal point of view, I think it's a good experience for these kids to discuss it, and they're great kids, and I've been very proud of all that they've done participating all these years. You would be amazed, and I've said this to the board before, I'm very impressed with what the students do at these meetings. But I've seen a lack of interest in recent times, I guess I'll say, because they're beginning to feel like there's no purpose in being on this committee. We bring suggestions.
We've adopted most of what you proposed, Barbara. You've had something every year you brought up. We've gone along with it, we've discussed it, on most of it, we've approved it, but now
I
they're
think
not.
there were
They
a
want to
couple,
replace the board,
no, I think there
run
were
a
a couple,
school.
I think there were a couple of years we got told to take it back, and it did go back in the fall.
Well, they're not
So-
going to necessarily agree with everything you
Well-
propose.
That's why we gave choices last year. And even with choices, we got no response.
I say let them do it. It's a good exercise. It's their time. If they wanna do
Absolutely.
it,
Yeah,
I'm all for it.
So you want to make a motion to,
I'll make a motion.
They know some of the drawbacks, and they know right off that the teachers have a current contract that goes 3 years, so.
I would
so-
suggest, if, to start them off, we'll get them copies of all the collective bargaining agreements in the SAU. I'm not trying to
No,
be funny.
I agree.
And just say, these are the districts that have specific times, these are the districts that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the committee wants to meet with representatives of all the different school boards to get a feel for, is there any interest out there for starting I assume the elementary kids earlier, and that would be the conversation that they would have with those school boards. That we range from 8 o'clock to 8:30 starts in the elementary schools, and everything in between.
And they
Between
know
that half
there are
hour.
issues to discuss with what happens in the homes when you've got elementary students and high school students. And if the high school students are starting later or early or whatever, how does that work? I mean, there is a lot of work to discuss in this.
So, Tam,
Yeah,
you're willing to make a motion to approve the request, and you are willing to second it?
I'd just
Further
like to have
discussion?
updates on a regular basis.
Sure.
All righty. All those in favor? Opposed or abstaining? Okay.
Thank you.
So Ross, you were abstaining?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And with that, again, from the committee, we met and there was no direction in the school that we were even meeting or where we were meeting. And this happens all the time. And these are issues that they brought up and said, are we important? Numerous times I've asked that on our agenda under SCC, the dates of our meetings be put down. They're not there.
All you need to do is get in touch with Michelle at the front desk. She does the agendas for us.
Okay, I've mentioned it here. I've asked that that be done. I've mentioned it.
But we need the input from when you're meeting. If you sent us a list of these are the dates we're meeting, Michelle would have them and include it on your agenda.
I will do that. But they are wondering about their importance, and I'd like the SCC
And
to be
in terms of
discussed.
where in the building they've been assigned, that Veronica Barton is responsible for putting signage up. As you saw today when you walked in for your meetings, Veronica does that every morning for different groups that are in the building. So if she has that information, I'm sure she'd be more than happy to post it. But if she doesn't, there's nothing she can do about it.
Okay. Okay, contact. I will do that. In the meantime, October 1st, November 5th, and December 3rd are our upcoming meetings. And we welcome all of you and any other community members.
Can you do those dates again, Barbara? So
Okay.
I will have them on here.
October 1st,
Yep,
November 5th,
yep.
and December 3rd, and our meetings start at 5:15.
Janice, they generally meet in the library?
It has been.
Yes.
Yes. It has been in the library,
Okay.
yes.
Well, I will make sure that these get put on the agenda in total, so it'll be there for the whole fall,
Yeah.
and for every meeting.
Thank you. Discussion items? Do we have any other business?
I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Peter?
What's the status of the insurance evaluation schedule?
Insurance evaluation, what?
The three committees from the collective back.
We got on the scheduling committee, as I understand it, the faculty said they weren't interested in talking about it, so everything collapses based on that. So it's seen in 2021. Yep. Am I right?
Yeah.
The floor, yeah.
Yep.
You can go back and take it
Yeah.
again.
So we've already had our non-public session, unless there's anything else to discuss. Do I hear a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Sam. That was very, Maureen. All those in favor?
All right.
I think it's unanimous.